Thursday night, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bobby Gray. I'm the founder and, as I say, fearless leader of Texit Coin. We've got some weird technical difficulties outside of the rocket ship, as you can see. I don't know. Every time it changes, just when I think I have it all dialed in and working properly, something goes wrong. Well, such is life. Here we go. As you know, I like to start promptly and on time. And so it's 6 o'clock. Let's begin. 218 people, 220 people here so far. Thanks so much, everyone, for taking time out of your Thursday night or whatever today is. This is going to be an exciting call for some of you, and it's going to be an incredibly boring call for others because I've been asked to do the official introduction at Texit Coin, start to finish, top to bottom, soup to nuts, anything and everything. And I don't know how long it's going to take. I haven't done one of these in a very long time. I don't even prepare for these. I never did. I get up in front of a crowd at a barbecue joint, a year ago, and whatever comes to me is what ends up being the presentation. I really can't do like slideshows. If I try to match up my words with whatever it is that's on the screen, it never works and I mess up and it's an embarrassing disaster. So no slideshow for you, just me and Truby over here off screen. He is probably the one that broke our wonderful dialed in camera setup. Such is life. But let's begin. So if you're already way too familiar with the story and you don't want to be bored for the next, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, hour, 2 hours, feel free to disconnect. Worry not, we are recording. If you want to hear it the official way, tune in, stick around, grab some popcorn, and let's begin. 266 people on this call so far. Okay, so I'm Bobby Gray, as I mentioned, and I started Texit Coin. And, look, the $1 million question in everyone's mind, of course, if you're new here, is whether or not this is a scam. And I don't intend to directly answer that question for you because ultimately I think the proof is in the pudding. But I'd like you to tune in, listen in, see what you think, and see if our project sounds like something that you think is worth taking a look at, doing your due diligence on, and ultimately, eventually, putting your money into, taking a leap of faith with us. Who am I and why am I qualified to have this conversation with you today? First of all, I'd like to point out a couple things that I've done over the years that put me in a unique position. First and foremost, I started my own currency back in 2008. In fact, I've been manufacturing coins for the better part of like 16, 17 years. In 2008, I started the American Open Currency Standard because I thought that there was something wrong in the world. I did some research trying to figure out exactly what it was. And down every rabbit hole that I tried to dig my way through, I always found the same problem. The same problem was always money. And when I tried to figure out who was behind the money supply here in the United States, boy, was I shocked and surprised to learn that the Federal Reserve is about as federal as Federal Express. And so I said, who's doing something about the money? If the money is always at the bottom of all these problems and injustices in the world, there's got to be an effort out there to fix the money. And I found one guy. I found this thing called the Liberty Dollar, started by Bernard Vernathis back 10 years prior. And I said, that guy's onto something. He was creating his own silver barter currency. And I thought that that was a great idea. And with my background in corporate barter, I decided to throw my hat in the ring. Well, he got busted by the feds about a week after I met the guy. And so I said, well, what to do now? Either quit and go home or start something different, start something better. And that's ultimately what I did. I launched the American Open Currency Standard back in 2008. And I've made millions and millions and millions of old-fashioned coins. I got a couple sitting here on my desk. Remember this stuff? Silver, old-fashioned money. I made a lot of coins over my career. And I think it's really coincidental that I started the Open Currency Standard back in 2008, which was the same year that somebody else, somewhere else in the globe, going by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto, probably not their real name, started Bitcoin. And I think this is really oddly coincidental because I believe we both saw the same problem. The difference between Bobby Gray and Satoshi Nakamoto is that Satoshi went digital and I went physical. And it's taken me a long time to see the error of my ways, but now here I am, 17 years later, looking back and saying, man, he was right. Bitcoin won. I've done very well for myself over the years, but I'm not crypto rich. They got it right. And again, it took me a long time to realize that, and I'll cover why in a few moments. But that's where I started back in 2008 with the American Open Currency Standard. I made millions of coins for hundreds of different causes, Indian nations, political candidates, from one end of the spectrum to the other. I made a lot of coins, and I did very well with it. In fact, I did so well that in 2012, I was invited by my friend, Texas Congressman Ron Paul, to go into Washington, D.C., into the lion's den, into the den of vipers, and speak to the U.S. House Financial Services Domestic Monetary Policy Subcommittee as an expert witness about parallel currencies. They called it the Roadmap to Monetary Freedom. I was the last person actually to speak at Ron Paul's very last domestic monetary policy hearing. That was back August 2nd, 2012. And, I always valued that moment, but I never really appreciated how important it was until recent times, where I can now point to that experience that happened way back in 2012 and say, go watch the video. Same guy, same message, just a different medium of exchange today. But that was back in 2012. And 2012 was an interesting year because it's also the same year that I actually created what might just be the most famous coin in the world today. I created the original Bitcoin coin back in 2012. You've seen this in probably every crypto email, crypto scam, all the crypto stuff left and right has taken this image and has adopted it as its own. And it's probably the most famous coin in the world today. But it's certainly the de facto face of not just Bitcoin, but all things cryptocurrency. I mean, when you think of Bitcoin, you're not thinking of zeros and ones stuck together in a, long digital blockchain ledger. You're thinking about this coin. And so I had the incredible honor of bringing that to market back in 2012. Fast forward a couple of years, and this cryptocurrency craze is starting to take off. And in 2017, a friend of mine, a guy by the name of Joby, invited me to come out and make some coins for a project that he was working on back in that time. And he wanted to order a bunch of, this original Bitcoin coin. He wanted to do some in gold and some in silver and some in copper. And I said, wouldn't this be a great opportunity for me to dip my toe in the cryptocurrency waters and create a powerful tool that the industry can use to deal with some of the biggest problems that they're facing right now? Back in the day, you've got exchanges going bankrupt. You got people getting hacked left and right. You've got forgotten passwords, shattered hard drives. You got all this new digital risk. And I said, well, I've got this famous coin. I know a thing or two about, technology and IT. Why don't I take this world famous coin and I can laser etch a private key onto the back of it. And if I laser etch this private key onto the back of one of these coins, we can create something that I've called a cold storage coin. And all it is it's a little way to hold a digital asset in the palm of your hands. And so I brought these cold storage coins to market back in 2017, and it was my contribution to the industry. But I saw this product as a really powerful bridge between these very different opposing worlds. I thought of it as a way to start to think about and grasp the idea of digital currency. When you come from this world of gold and silver coins, you've got something that you can physically hold. You can lock it up in the safe. You know where your value is, and you know how to keep it safe. And it's very easy to protect this from digital threats because you don't have any. You got to worry about somebody breaking in and cracking into your safe, and that's certainly an issue. But we don't have to worry about hackers. We don't have to worry about exchange bankruptcies and all this new stuff that we're just now learning about as we enter this realm of cryptocurrency, digital money. And so my contribution to the industry back in 2017 was to not launch an ICO or create a meme coin or an NFT or digital collectible, but to create a functional tool that actually gave people the ability to store any amount of crypto in the palm of their hand. So the key is here on the physical coin, any amount. And I ended up making a lot of these for a lot of different blockchains. Every one is unique. We got an Ethereum one, we did a Tether one, we've made the official USDC, Binance coin, Cardano, Litecoin. I've made a lot of coins in my time. And that was back in 2017, really still before most people ever heard of cryptocurrency. But my friend invited me out to deliver these custom coins that I manufactured for the project that he was working on in South Korea at a big event that company was having. And I went out there and I saw for the very first time something that absolutely blew my mind, and I call it crypto rich. I saw more excited, screaming, clapping, cheering Koreans in a room than I'd ever imagined. Next thing I know, I blinked and it was hot air balloons and it was strawberries and caviar and champagne and this amazing thing, this powerful, excited community of cryptocurrency enthusiasts. And this was all brand new to me. And so I saw it there for the first time. And in the back of my mind, I said, I'm going to do something someday with crypto. I don't know what it is, but I know I'm going to do something someday and it's going to be spectacular. I don't know what. This is 2017, but I know I'm going to do something great. So I've been around this cryptocurrency conversation for a very long time. You know, back in 2012, I brought the original Bitcoin coin to market. If you go way back and you flip the original coin over, you'll see AOCS 2012 on the back of all those coins. That's American Open Currency Standard. Your little Bobby Gray here made that back a very long time ago. And so, you know, a lot of people out there have the I missed Bitcoin story. Nobody has the well, very few people have a story where they missed it as big and as bad as I did. You know, back when I brought this coin to market in 2012, Bitcoin was about $5 a coin, right? So if I picked up $100 worth of Bitcoin back at $5, I'd have 20 Bitcoin, and I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you here today, but I missed it. And let's add insult to injury, because I didn't just miss Bitcoin. I missed Litecoin. I missed Dogecoin. I missed Ethereum. I missed Monero. I missed Binance. I missed like hundreds of these different coins. There's a guy driving a Lamborghini somewhere in the world right now on a coin that hit that you and I have never even heard of. I missed it. And I know that a lot of people out there have that very same story. You probably missed it too, which is why you're here today. You probably know somebody that got in early and did very well with it. And what did I miss? I missed out on a financial technology that is literally maybe, just maybe, the best form of money planet Earth civilization has ever seen. I mean, think about it, right? We've used gold and silver for thousands of years. It's worked very, very well for a very long time. You know that old story about an ounce of gold. 1 ounce of gold back in ancient Rome, you know, bought you a nice toga, it bought you a belt, and it bought you a pair of sandals. And that same ounce of gold today, 2,000 plus years later, buys you a nice suit, it buys you a pair of shoes, and it buys you a nice belt. And that's not entirely true, because an ounce of gold today is worth like what, $3,300, $3,400? And I would argue that an ounce of gold today probably buys you 2 nice suits, a couple pairs of shoes, and a couple belts. And that's the thing that you have to understand about good money. Good money is designed to hold its value over time. Good money doesn't go up or down in value. It just simply holds its value. Okay, well, if that's the case, then why can I buy more today with that ounce of gold than I could buy 2,000 years ago? Well, that's technology. You know, back then, everything was handmade. Today, we have much better tools to, you know, acquire these raw materials and to assemble these raw materials into marketable products, and the quality's better and they're more durable. And, you know, we've got all those things. We've got technology to thank for all those great things. And so I wouldn't say that the value of our money has gone up. The value of gold and silver have gone up, but I would say that we've gotten better at producing the things that you can use those gold and silver coins to buy, right? So that's the world that I've come from. And this physical world where if you don't hold it, you don't own it, you miss out on emerging technologies like cryptocurrency. And so in 2008, when I made the decision to start my own currency and go physical with it, you know, that was relying on physical minted coins as the medium of exchange, I did it because it was very real and it was very honest. You can hold the coin, you can point to it, you can look at it, you can test it, you can know exactly that this is a real legitimate coin. So when cryptocurrency came out, it was kind of natural and understandable that I was skeptical about it, as I'm sure you were skeptical when you first heard about it as well. Now, some people weren't skeptical. They got it right away. Maybe they were young, maybe they were tech oriented, maybe they understood digital economies. Maybe they got in early and they got rich and they're gone. Or maybe they got in early and they made a terrible mistake and threw their computer out in a landfill, and they're still hunting through that landfill today, digging out trash, trying to find that magic hard drive. But whatever it is, we missed it. And what we didn't understand back then has all of a sudden, over the last 10, 15 years, become a multi-trillion dollar industry. And I would even argue that the industry is brand new and it is just getting started. But I missed it. Let's take another look real quick at what we missed, because when I got into making my own currency, I read an article by this great guy named Jason Hummel, member of our community today. Maybe he's out there on tonight's call. Let's scroll down and find out. Yes, he is out there. Hi, Jason. Good evening. I read an article and it said that anything that was going to be used as good money had to have three traits, three properties. There were always going to be three values of good money. Number one, it was going to be a good medium of exchange. You were going to be able to pass it easily from one person to the other. And I can easily toss you a silver or gold coin. It's very easy. For anything to be good money, it had to be a good unit of account, which means that I need to be able to count this thing easily. If I weigh it, I can check the exact weight. If I stack 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 on top of each other, I can quickly tell that there are 20 there. And it had to be a good store of value. And of course, if we look at the historical value of gold and silver over the last couple thousand years, we look at it and say, yeah, it's held its value over time. Maybe it's even gone up a little bit in value. So anything that was good money had to have those three traits. So let's pause for a moment and evaluate cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin. In that light, let's take a look. Is Bitcoin a good medium of exchange? Well, today I would argue that Bitcoin is a flawlessly perfect medium of exchange. I can send any amount of Bitcoin from here to the other side of the world and back in mere moments. Bitcoin's kind of slow, a little expensive. So let's say Litecoin. I can send any amount of Litecoin from here to the other side of the world and back in seconds. I can do it practically for free. And here's the best part of all. This is the best part. I can do it without even having to go through FedEx or UPS or the Postal Service. I don't even have to go through a bank to do that. I can do it at 2 a.m. if I want. And that value is there on the other side of the planet almost instantaneously. What a profound idea to think of this form of value, this form of money, as an unstoppable medium of exchange. It's flawless. Number one. Let's think about cryptocurrency. Let's think about Litecoin as a unit of account. I can look at my wallet and I can tell exactly how many Litecoin I have. I can go to a Litecoin block explorer and I can figure out exactly how many Litecoin have ever been made. I know exactly where they are. I know exactly what wallets those Litecoins are residing in. I can take one Litecoin and I can shatter it into a million different teeny tiny mini Litecoins almost instantaneously and almost for free. I mean, think about what things were like when I was manufacturing silver coins. If I wanted to take a big 1,000-ounce silver bar, I'd have to melt that down into the, to the tub of water and turn it into casting grain. I'd take my casting grain and cast it out into a long strip. I'd take my strip and I'd roll it out into a thin strip. And then I have to punch my blanks out. I'd have to rim those. I'd have to anneal and polish them. I'd have to clean them, wash them, dry them, and then finally I could stamp them. That's a lot of work to take a 1,000-ounce bar of silver and turn it into 1,000 1-ounce rounds. But I can take a Litecoin and I can turn it into 1,000 mini Litecoins instantly and almost for free. It is a perfect and flawless unit of account. But here's the thing that got me stuck for years. Remember, I learned about this in 2012, right? Or before. And it wasn't until 2023 that I finally took off my horse and buggy gold and silver blinders and thought about number three. Is it a good store of value? Gold and silver have held their value over thousands of years. They clearly are a good store of value. But I can never wrap my mind around that last trait of good money. Is cryptocurrency, is Bitcoin a good store of value? And as I pondered that question, because we think about this volatility, prices up and down. When I launched my exciting coins back in 2017, Bitcoin was at $20,000 and then it crashed all the way down to $3,000. You can't use something that's that volatile as money. It just doesn't work. But what I misunderstood back then was that store of value doesn't mean that it's not volatile. Anything that's good money that's going to be a good store of value means that you can use it to get things later. That's all it means. Store of value means that I can trade it out later to get something that I find valuable. I can't eat my silver coin. I can't take an ounce of gold and I can't put it into my gas tank for fuel. But I can take those coins and I can go down to a pawn shop or a coin shop and I can sell those and turn them into money, which I can then use to buy food or gasoline. All those gold and silver coins are designed to do is just hold on to my value until I'm ready to spend it. And so what I was missing was that store of value doesn't mean that it's not volatile. There are lots of things out there are volatile. Currencies come and go and crash all the time. What I failed to understand was that store of value meant that you could use it later to get what you want. And what I failed to realize as I'm sitting there with my blinders on the gold and silver horse and buggy is that this Bitcoin freight train went flying past me, because today you can spend Bitcoin at 54 million plus merchants all over the globe. 54 million merchants today. How, really? How? Why? Today, you can get a Bitcoin linked Visa debit card from a group like Coinbase and many, many others, and you can tap to pay with your Bitcoin store of value at 54 million places that take Visa MasterCard. And I never saw it coming. I was too focused on this physical aspect of money. And what happened to me in 2023, I finally saw the writing on the wall. I've been resisting this cryptocurrency thing for a long time. And I finally said, you know what? The world's not making any new gold and silver coin buyers. I'm basically selling fax machines over here. Kids today, they don't care about gold and silver coins. My daughter's not going to go out and buy a safe to stock up all the gold and silver coins she's never going to buy. The only gold and silver coins she'll get are the ones she inherits from me when I'm dead. Kids are into games. They're into NFTs, digital collectibles, in-game tokens and currencies, things that they trade in different places online. That's digital value. And when that finally hit me, I said, I'm out. I'm not making any more coins. I sold all my factory assets. I got completely out after years of coin manufacturing. I was done. And I knew that I was going to get into cryptocurrency. I didn't know which one. I didn't know how. I knew that I was selling these great coins and they work perfectly. But I didn't know exactly what I was going to do next. But I remember that thing in 2017, all that excitement, all that passion, and all that energy that was there in the cryptocurrency, because this crypto emerging technology, Bitcoin and all these other ones, this is like a bleeding cutting edge technology. And if we understand this technology early, just the same way that it happened with the US dollar when it first came out, if we get in on this thing early and we take the time to understand it, we've got an upside. We've got an opportunity. It took 20 years and an executive order for the US to go from gold and silver coins to the Federal Reserve note. Earlier you got in, the faster you got into that new program, whether you like it or not, the more opportunity and upside that you had. And it works the same way today with cryptocurrency. And I would argue that we are still in the very beginning of the digital currency future. Now, I'm not trying to convince anybody on this call in 30 minutes of what it took me the better part of a dozen years to come and understand. But I would like you to at least begin to open your mind to the possibility that cryptocurrency, number one, might just be the best form of money that we have today on planet Earth, maybe even possibly the most honest form of money. You can't make a fake Bitcoin. If I tried to send fake Bitcoin into your wallet, it would never get there. But if I put a silver coin down in front of you, you'd have a real hard time without metallurgical testing equipment convincing me that that was absolutely real. Cryptocurrency might just be the best form of money that we've ever seen. It's the most honest, it's the most transparent, and it gives the control of that money back to us, the people, in our hands, where it has always belonged. And it took me a long time to see that. And so when I got out of my coin manufacturing in 2023 and I said, I'm getting into crypto, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to do something great. And then a couple months later, I'm listening to an episode of the Rogan podcast, and somebody gets on there as a guest and they goes, hey man, what do you think about Texit? And he's like, what? Texas? Yeah, Texas becoming its own independent nation. I mean, look, all empires eventually fail. It's just a matter of time. The U.S. has been here for 250 years. The average age of an empire is 250 plus or minus 100 years. Rogan, poo-pooed all over the idea right away, but I heard it and a light went off. Now, in my old days, as soon as I hear something cool like that, I start designing a coin, right? And that's what I've done for a long time. I'm a coin designer. And this time I said, no, not this time. This time I'm going digital. And I looked around and I realized that I was coming up into my own party late. I had already built a factory with all this perfect insulation and all this big power. You need this big three-phase power to be able to melt silver bars and run these casting ovens and furnaces. So I've got all this big power and a great facility that's perfectly insulated. I've got this great background in IT, and so I'm not afraid of technology stuff and some coding and programming and design. And I said, what if this was the right thing to do right now? What if all of this time that I've been working towards this goal of honest money, what if I've been doing it all wrong? What if I've been intentionally neglecting to acknowledge the tools of our time? And I've been successful with my gold and silver coins, but I haven't been able to be global. I haven't been able to affect a large community because I've been using slow, old-fashioned, and outdated tools. And I said, what if this whole time I've been designing and developing exactly all the things that I would need to launch my own cryptocurrency, Texit Coin? And so I got started on designing it, registering it, domain names and copyrights and all that stuff. And January 26th of 2024, I mined the first block of Texit Coin. Now, here's the important part. Texit Coin is technologically very similar to Litecoin. In fact, we started out as a Litecoin clone. And I did that because I wasn't interested in bringing any fancy bells and whistles to the conversation. I was looking at the community and I said, well, I'm going to get into crypto. Which one should I get into? Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum? You got all these great ones out there. Which one should I throw my hat in the ring to support? And I set out to do some research. And that's when it hit me even worse than this Texit thing. What I realized is that Asia now primarily controls almost all the big cryptos. Proof of work cryptos, think about it. China makes the chips that you need to run the supercomputers that mine the crypto. They get almost free electricity. So, of course, it makes sense that they've got more than 51, 52, 53% of the mining power. Think about proof of stake coins like Ethereum is now. Whoever holds the most amount of it makes the decisions on the technology. Well, the biggest exchange in the world is Binance, 5, 6, 7, 10 times bigger than Coinbase. They've got the majority of the crypto holdings. I mean, 60% of all crypto trading now is Japan, Korea, and China. And I was blown away to find out that the majority of the crypto excitement today is in Asia. I said, there's got to be somebody that's doing something like a made in America crypto, right? Make crypto American again. Not a thing. And I said, that's what I'll do. Let's design a proof of work coin. That's the hard way. It's real easy to code up a meme coin and launch a, Hawk 2 Girl token. The hard way is building out the mining infrastructure, but the mining infrastructure is really what matters. Because in proof of work coins, we're taking electricity as our raw material. We're working that electricity through these things called ASICs, these supercomputers that are designed to do these complex math equations in a lottery format to get this prize, this digital reward. And when I thought about that, I thought this is very similar to how I used to manufacture coins back in the day. I take this big bar of silver. That's my raw material. I'd melt it down using all this production equipment and electricity. And at the end of the day, I get a pile of, 1 ounce silver coins. So when I thought about electricity as the raw material, ASICs as the production equipment, and at the end of the day, I get a pile of digital coins, it's the same thing. I've been doing this for years. I know how to do it. And I said, I'm going to build a mine here in Texas. Texas is beginning to become the center of the cryptocurrency conversation in the United States. Think about it, right? If crypto is all about electricity and power, we've got great electricity here in Texas. We've got our own grid. The only problem we really have here in Texas is the heat, and these supercomputers put off a ton of heat. And we wrestled with that in the beginning. We had a garage full of these Bitmain L3s, that were old, outdated. I was like, we're going to repurpose these things and we're going to get them to make our own coin. And so I have these supercomputers screaming in my garage and it's 120 degrees. And I said, there's got to be a better way to do this. I come across this technology called immersion cooling. And now we've got tubs full of something like mineral oil and these expensive supercomputers dropped into these, these exotic tubs that are pumping this fluid outside through a heat exchanger. And this is all stuff that makes sense to me because I've come from this industrial background. And so I started mining Texit Coin in January of 2024. That was back when it was just a twinkle in my eye. And, I knew that it was going to take some time to develop the resources and the assets that would be required for us to turn into something that the world would be interested in learning more about. And it was April of 2024, about 69 weeks ago, funnily enough, that I felt good enough about the project that I introduced it to my friends and family. I invited them to buy a handful of coins and to start mining Texit Coin with me. And I made a very simple program. I took lots of ideas from the people that did it before. I said, we got to build a mine. We got to build a mine that's so big that the cryptocurrency community looks at this and goes, wow, that's a big mine, but we need to build this with individuals. Because it'd be very easy to get one rich guy to dig deep in his pocket, pull out $100 million to build a big mine. But that means that one guy owns it. He gets to keep all the profits from that. We need a second chance. We missed Bitcoin. We missed Litecoin. We missed all these different things. Why not give ourselves another chance? Learn from all those mistakes that were made by the crypto community, the hackers, and the password problems. Let's use these powerful tools that we have today, and let's have a do-over. And so I built us a Bitcoin time machine. I got rid of my gold and silver horse and buggy. I built us a cryptocurrency rocket ship from all the things that I've learned over the years about honest money and voluntary barter currencies and equal exchange of value and cryptocurrency and the great things that it brings to the conversation. I put those all together and I built us the Texit Coin rocket ship. And in April of 2024, 69 weeks ago, I invited friends and family to join me. I said, put in $1,000. We're going to crowdsource this mine, guys. Every time somebody puts in $1,000, we're going to take that money and we're going to grow the mine a little bit. Because not only do we just have to build this mine, but we also have to build a community of enthusiasts that want Texit Coin to win. I mean, look, people have done this before. There's no, questioning that. But they were trying to mine Bitcoin. We're mining our own coin. So not only do we have to build the mine big enough to the point where the world respects it, but we have to build a community that's passionate about honest money and serious about seeing our coin become successful. And I told those people back in the early days that put their money in, I'm going to do 3 things with your money. I'm going to be a good steward of your money. I'm going to build the mine. If you follow the rules of our little affiliate program, I'm going to pay you commission, and I'm going to promote our coin. And that's my simple plan. And if I do those 3 things, I think we're going to have a project that's going to grow and be successful. People are going to laugh at us in the beginning. Oh, man, they're going to think it's funny. And they're going to make the same jokes and comments about us that I'm sure that they did about Bitcoin back when it was in its infancy. Let them laugh today. But if you see the opportunity that I see, you look at my background, the things that I bring to the table, making this project incredibly authentic and a continuation of my life's work, just swapping out that horse and buggy for a digital currency rocket ship, then join me. Then put your cash in. And a couple guys did. My daughter, in fact, was first money in. I think that was April 4th. And then my dad and a couple friends and my neighbor, Josh, and some other great people came along. Then my neighbor, Johnny, came down. What are you doing down here? Making all this noise in your garage. Well, I'm mining crypto. I don't know what that is. Well, look, man, it's kind of like a scam, except you know the guy that's running it. My wife has long since told me that I shouldn't use that that pitch anymore. It's kind of like a scam. Not my finest moment, but that's really what it was. It wasn't a scam. It was just something that was incredibly risky, totally unproven, a leap of faith, if you would. But I felt good enough about it April of last year to invite people to put in $1,000. I said, look, $1,000 isn't that bad. It's what you'd maybe spend in a bad night at the casino or on an expensive dinner out with the family. It's a reasonable risk. And if I'm right, and if this thing ends up being successful, you'll be really happy that you got in. And then it started to grow. This little referral program that we had that sure smells a lot like network marketing. People said in the early days, don't say that. Don't use those letters. Like, I'll get in, but I would never be caught dead in one of those MLMs. I said, well, look, it's not really like an MLM. We borrowed a lot of stuff from the network marketing community, or even used some of their terms and terminology. I said, but it's not really an MLM. I've talked to like top guys in the MLM space. They go, you don't have an MLM. Why not? It's a one-time fee. If you don't have like a monthly auto ship, it's not really an MLM. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. No requirement. You put your money in, you're going to get your Texit Coin mined out day in, day out. Happens about 7 p.m. Central. 25 minutes from now, another payout's going to happen every day in, day out, automatically, right to you, whether you help us grow or not. But number 3 is we've got a product that you can't find on the shelf at Walmart for 10 cents on the dollar. In fact, our whole conversation is about money. If you want to join us, you put your money in. $1,000 is the minimum. $9,000 or so is the maximum. No one's allowed to buy their way to the top. If you want to be a top miner with Texit Coin, you've got to earn it. You got to roll up your sleeves and you got to help us build. You got to see the dots that we've identified. As the mine gets bigger, the coin becomes more valuable. As our community gets bigger, as our pockets get deeper, our coin becomes more valuable. Very clearly, easily identifiable dots. If you want to have the biggest chunk of the mining hash power, you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to help us grow. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, great. You don't have to. Just keep your coin safe because your mining output's going to pay out every day to your cold storage wallet. Just keep it safe. It's all you got to do. You put your money in, you start mining. You decide to help us, you participate in our 1-2 free program. You bring on 3 friends, mom, dad, sister, coworker, whatever you want. For every 3 people that you bring onto our program, we give you an additional 100 mega hash of mining power. We call it 1 seat on the rocket ship. So you buy in for $1,000, you buy 1 seat on the rocket ship, you get 100 mega hash. 100 mega hash over the total mining power. So as the mine grows, your 100 mega hash represents a smaller and smaller and smaller piece of the pie, unless you decide to acquire more and help us grow. But for every 3 people that you bring onto our community and invite them on and they become miners, we'll give you an extra seat. Now, if you do that with the 3 people within the first 30 days, we'll give you 2 extra seats. And then we'll reset the clock. We call it a fast start bonus. So if you bring on 3 people, you get more mining power, more money. We decided at the very early stages of this project that there was not going to be any holds, any lockups, any restrictions. The Texit Coin that you mine every day is mined out direct to your wallet. It goes right to you. You can mine it to your phone and you can monetize or sell it every day. You can mine it to your cold storage wallet. I don't have a cold storage coin right here. Can you grab me a Texit Coin? Every single day, day in, day out, it mines direct to you. Save it, see how high the rocket goes, or sell it and monetize it every day. It's worth about $5 a day, right? So as your mining output Texit Coin per day decreases, the hope is the value of that Texit Coin on the open market increases. And so voila, it's worth about $5 a day. There's a Texit Coin, right? So keep it or sell it. And if you do that with 1 seat and you don't do anything else, you'll get the equivalent of your money back in about 200 days, right? If you hold on to it, you've got it in hand, you decide to sell those coins every day, you got your money back in about 200 days, and then you're mining for the next 136 years. We designed a multi-generational blockchain that doesn't expire in the next couple of years like Bitcoin does. This one goes on for a while. Now, you say, well, I really like what you're doing, man. It sounds good. And apparently, according to the charts on your website, you're doing very well. And this thing is growing. In fact, you went from 2.8 cents back in April of last year, or May 15th, when you opened on your first market, dex-trade.com. We're live today on 2 markets, 2 centralized exchanges, dex-trade.com and also Bitmart, which is a big exchange, but not available to Americans. And we're also live today on the DEX markets with wrapped Texit Coin, WTXC. Just launched that this past week. So you can get us, you can buy and sell in markets. There's a good amount of trading volume there. It's still new, it's still early, but you could sell all the Texit Coin that you mine every day. You would not affect the market price, and you'd be able to turn that back into cash real time. No restrictions, no lock. It's your Texit Coin to do with as you please. But if you look at the website, if you see those dots, what happens with most people is you join, you put your money in, you dip a toe in the water. You're trying to answer that question of whether or not it's a scam, which is the $1 million question. And it really is the $1 million question, because if you decide that it's not for you and you don't put your $1,000 in and you don't acquire those 1,000 Texit Coin over the next, 9, 12 months, whatever it is, and we take Texit Coin onto the list of top cryptos, which I believe is extremely possible, 1,000 times $1,000 is $1 million. And you miss out on $1 million. And that would be a real shame, because that would be another example of man, I could have gotten in on Texit Coin back when it was $1.75. But if you see those dots, If you understand what we're doing, if you like the project, if you like the idea of being involved with the most exciting thing today in the cryptocurrency space, think about it, right? You can buy in on Bitcoin. Bitcoin's probably going to go up in value. Every government across the globe is talking about Bitcoin reserves today. Every state house across the planet is trying to figure out how to get in on the digital currency revolution. It's coming our way. So there's no doubt it's going to go up, but you're just waiting for the banks and the governments to drive the price of the coin up and down on the Bitcoin roller coaster yo-yo experience. You can't affect the price. But if you jump into Texit Coin and you help us grow the mine, you push us a little bit closer with each seat to our goal. Because we take that money, we pay our commissions, we build the mine, and we promote our coin. And man, it is really fun right now to talk about the coin promotion. We're live now in Dallas Fort Worth Airport. We're live on 200 billboards across the state of Texas, saturated in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio. We've got billboards in Phoenix. We've got billboards in Tennessee. We've got billboards in Southern California. We've got radio ads running for the next 6 months. KLBJ Radio out of San Antonio, the #1 AM news radio station down there, is now named the Texit Coin Studio. And the brand recognition, advertising, and promotion that we're doing is working. People all over the state now are familiar with Texit Coin, and it's just getting bigger and more exciting every day. We go live in Houston Airport in just a couple of days. And that's because we take the money that comes in, we build the mine, we pay our commissions on time, and we reinvest in marketing and promotion. And it's that simple formula that started as a little twinkle in my eye that grew into something that I was comfortable introducing to my friends and family, that has grown today into something now that has built 4% of our, brought in 4% of our cash that we need for the mine, 22.5% of the cash that we need for the marketing and promotion. And we just the other day broke past our 10,000th miner in our community. And if you look at the charts on the website and you see the momentum, you see the enthusiasm, you see this stuff coming in, and you realize that this thing is working because we're following through on the simple things that we told you we were going to do, you might just decide to put in a little bit of cash and join us. Take that leap of faith. If you've got the money and you're willing to put it at risk and you want to be a part of something that's made exclusively here in Texas that we're going to export all over the world for our friends and partners in Asia. I lived in Asia for 7 years. I spent 4 years in Thailand and 3 years in Singapore. I'm very familiar with Asian culture. More than 100 people so far are joining us on our trip to Thailand. Congratulations to all the many people that have qualified to join us and spend 2 weeks having the time of your life. It's not a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, folks, but it sure feels like it. If you want to be a part of the most exciting thing in the cryptocurrency space today, you take me seriously, you believe that I'm going to work hard day in and day out for our mutual benefit, then put your cash in. Join us. It's a one-time fee. You have to decide one time if you want to take that leap of faith. Put your cash in, tune into the Zoom calls. We do a live Zoom call every Tuesday night and every Thursday night. I do the Tuesday night call myself. I'm very busy with a lot of different stuff, but you can always count on me being here for you Tuesday night to answer your questions, to share the news with you, tell you what's going on for better or worse. You know, not everything goes exactly the right way every week. Some weeks we have some setbacks. We talk about those things. We decided that transparency was paramount in this project. You've heard about all the crypto scams. You know about all the slimy stuff in the network marketing industry. We're just going to meet those objections and concerns head on and give you all the information. The more good information you have, the better decisions you can make. And if we're upfront with you, again, it's not always roses, but we're going to be upfront. You might not always like what we have to say, but we'll always tell you the truth so that you get to decide if you're on the right rocket ship. But join us. Come with us. We've manufactured ourselves a second chance. The crypto kids, the guys that got rich, they let this beautiful financial technology slip right through their fingers, and they handed it over to the same banks and institutions that Bitcoin set out to disrupt. People ask all the time, what's your utility? What do you mean utility? We're here to do the job that Bitcoin forgot. You remember the Bitcoin white paper? Digital, peer-to-peer, decentralized currency. Nobody uses Bitcoin today for currency. They use Litecoin or, USDC or USDT. Bitcoin today is digital gold. Most of it's held by the big banks. Most of it's mined by foreign nations. We've got one chance to do it over. We've got one chance to do it right, to learn from all those mistakes, to take what we've learned and we've built it into Texit Coin, the future of money in Texas. I'm Bobby Gray. I'm the founder of this thing. I'm the guy that's lucky enough to call himself the fearless leader. I've got a great team of people that's come together over the last year and a half now to build this thing. It's really, really incredible. I mean, I'm blown away at the reception that we've had. Back in the early days, it was kind of risky. It was a little questionable as to whether or not this thing of ours was going to work. No doubt in my mind today, friends. There is nothing external that we need for this project to be successful. We don't need a law passed. We don't need luck. We don't need an influencer to pump us just the right way at the right time. All we need to do is continue doing exactly what we've done for the last 69 weeks, and we win.